All right, everyone, we have got to talk about Tana Mongeau because she is getting ripped to shreds online right now. And I think it's very, very, very interesting. So she has a podcast, the Cancelled Podcast, very aptly named, with her friend Brooke. And on their recent episode that was posted 2 days ago, I watched it last night and I was kind of shocked at parts, but I was kind of loosely watching it. And today I went on the Tana Mongeau subreddit and I saw that it was filled with backlash about this podcast. And then I kind of rethought the podcast and rewatched it again. And I was like, she's in trouble. And it's really, 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 she's in really some hot shit right now. So she tells a story about her European travel. She was in London, then she went to Paris, then she went to Italy. And she talks about when she was in Paris, one of her friends organized for her and her friends to go on a wine tasting. She said that they had to wake up at like the ass crack of dawn, 8 a.m., and they had to go on a train for 3 hours. And on this train, they met up with their tour guide, who was called Cynthia. Now, one of the main reasons Tana's being called out is because she actively says Cynthia's name and kind of leads a lot of like things towards Cynthia, and Cynthia's getting flooded with like bad reviews and stuff right now, and a lot of people are saying the responsibility Tana has. We'll get to it. I'm just giving you the baseline for the story. So she talks about that this tour guide met them at Paris and went on the 3-hour train with them and basically wouldn't shut up, talking to her and was telling her like the most boring information about wine and said to her she can either do a fun tour or she can do an educational one. And Tana and her friends said they wanted to do a fun tour rather than an educational one. And from that moment on, Tana says that Cynthia had an attitude with Tana and her friends and didn't like them because they were kind of like the influencer Americans and was being really rude to them. And then Tana said that she was being rude back and that Cynthia was basically holding a grudge and being so just irritating towards them. And then Tana was, being annoyed back, but she was trying to like keep to herself. And that throughout the wine tasting, Cynthia was not telling them the fact that they were having to like walk. There was no buggies. They had to like walk for apparently like an hour when they got off the 3-hour train before they could even get to the wine tasting. Then when they got to the wine tasting, they had to walk around for ages, hearing Cynthia, in Tana's words, say the most boring shit before they got to the wine tasting. And the wine tasting they got was like this much wine. So Tana said that we had to deal with her being like an absolute, and she says like, see you next Tuesday. For like hours, they were trapped in this like random town in France that had like 300 people in it. And she basically felt that this woman was coming at her, and she retells this story. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of jump around little parts of the story very briefly, and then we're going to get to the backlash. All right, so let's go. So I wanted to give you context so we could kind of jump between parts and it still kind of make a little bit of sense. Yeah, I kind of messed up that CEUN next Tuesday. All right, let's go. So again, I wanted to give you context so I could flip between this.
Who is taking us on the tour is there to greet us at the train station. Okay. Keep in mind where we're going is like 3 hours away.
So did she come all the way there?
She came all the way there.
That's a good.
I'm actually going to be calling her by her name.
Oh, is she horrible?
Cynthia. Is that Cynthia? I wrote it down. Let me make sure it's fucking Cynthia. 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 Cynthia.
Uh-oh.
We get to the train station.
So the problem with this is that someone said, I don't think Tana's wrong. She just want a refund. We're going to get to all that, by the way. Because, by the way, whenever I watched this last night. And again, I wasn't really paying attention. And I saw nothing wrong with the story. And then it was only whenever I was rewatching it today that I kind of realized, like, holy shit, Tana Mongeau is a big influencer. And I saw that a lot of people were flooding the company that Tana Mongeau said the name of. And then also said the employee's name. That basically people were trying to dox Cynthia because they knew what company she worked at. They were trying to get her fired. They were trying to ruin the reputation of the company, which the company were basically just doing a walking tour, and Tana didn't want to do a walking tour, which is absolutely fine. Tana's friend didn't tell her that it was a walking tour, but it's not Cynthia and the worker's fault for Tana going to a walking tour and not wanting to do a walking tour. So the worker is getting all this harassment and stuff now because Tana, bravely said her name and said the name of the company. And that's where people have the issue, because if Tana said this story without saying the name of the company and the worker's name, it would have been an anonymous story, which would have been fine. And the fact that she said that has opened up that now someone is getting doxxed and swatted at the hands of an influencer who has millions of followers. And that's the problem. And that is a very valid problem. There are consequences of being an influencer where you have to be a little bit more careful of what you're talking about, because you do have a responsibility. But anyway, we're going to get to this. We're going to talk about the backlash. Then I'm going to give my opinion.
And I haven't eaten. I'm so hungover. They tell us there's going to be food on the train. There's going to be food there. We get on the train. There's no food on the train. There's no food at the wine tour. I find out. I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm starving. I'm exhausted. I'm hungover. I'm sad. And she starts immediately talking to us. And she asks a question that for me is going to be the entire preface of my frustration with this story. Okay?
Okay.
She looks at all of us and she says, this tour can go one of two ways. Would you like to have a fun tour or an educational tour?
Why the fuck would I want to have an educational tour? I guess that is like what a wine tour is for. But
yeah, but I think that our age range
she
is
should
not
know.
necessarily whatever. And I appreciate the question. Thank you for asking. We all come to the consensus, hey, we didn't really sleep last night. We're super tired.
Sorry, that is so real, by the way. Who the fuck would want to do that?
We'd like to go on a fun wine tour, right? So then I put in my headphones for what is probably 1 minute. And I intend on sleeping on this 2.5 hour train ride. You know, girl dinner, I'm going to have sleep for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
At least get some rest before we go on this long day.
Yeah, you gotta charge up.
And I feel a tap on my shoulder.
Oh.
As I'm dozing off. It's Cynthia.
Cynthia?
I take my headphone out. And she proceeds to go on a 30-minute tangent to me about why Veuve Clicquot champagne is called Veuve Clicquot champagne.
Shut the fuck up, Cynthia.
And Ty has a video of me that I'll try to insert in this podcast. And I'm looking at her. I'm still trying to be nice, but I have tears in my eyes. I'm like, huh? That's amazing.
You should have just told her you already knew. Yeah, she could tell by the look of you. You don't speak English?
So then, as she's on this entire tangent, she lets us know that we will be spending the day walking approximately 6 or 7 miles.
No.
I'm going to be honest. Okay, so here's my thing, right? A wine tour I have always wanted to do, but I have not done it because I can't commit to the amount of walking that a lot of wine tours are. And Tana and her friends agreed to go on a wine tour. They agreed to go on a wine tour. So as funny as I can find this story in parts, because again, someone wrote it in the chat, and I do want to say this. Parisians hate Americans. And a lot of places in Europe hate Americans. Like, I know that Tana recently spoke about how she feels like kind of not loved in London because a lot of workers don't like Americans. And I can tell you that they don't. And the reason I know this is because a lot of places, specifically in London, will ask me what part of America I'm from after treating me so rude for like 10 or 20 minutes at a restaurant. And then it clicks in my head and I'm like, oh, I'm not from America. And they start treating me nice again. It's just a case that a lot of Europeans don't like Americans. So whenever, and you know, that's weird and that's its own thing. And I'm not saying that as I agree with it. I'm saying that as that is a case. I have a lot of American friends, and I've also kind of experienced it with a lot of companies thinking I am American. But anyway, so when Tana speaks about this person, Cynthia, being like rude to her immediately, I'm kind of like, you know, that kind of makes sense. Like, Tana Mongeau is like the typical like influencer American. Like, she is annoying. But also, it's important to note that Cynthia is being paid a lot of money to do this wine tour, which includes picking them up in Paris. And she's, by the way, with a group. Like, they were also with another group, like, not just Tana's friends. Like, it was a big group that they all didn't know each other and whatever. So there's other paying customers on this trip, right? So Tana agreed to go on a wine tasting tour, whether she wants to admit it or not. So this woman was only doing her job. I'm sure she had an attitude with her, but when you retell the story and you give like her workplace and her name, it opens up like a really big issue that even like Cynthia could like sue and stuff like that as well. Like, again, there are parts of the story that I find funny, like, oh, a struggle of not wanting to, walk, or, just give me so much wine or something. But you really got to be careful when you start naming people and stuff like this. But we're going to continue this for a little bit.
There are no golf carts. There are no cars. There are no ATVs. There are no bikes. There are no horses. There are no skateboards. There are no fucking hoverboards. There are no rollerblades. We will be walking 6 or 7 miles.
Absolutely not. I would have turned that train around.
It's 8 a.m. First thing I ask, how do I get on the next train back to France? It's not my thing.
Yeah, like that is
She's
not
still
gonna
in
work.
France, by the way.
And then Rob is asking her, like, what do you mean the tour I took last time is was on a golf cart on whatever? And she's like, yeah, no, that's not this one. Like, I booked you on a different one. I thought you'd like it more.
Oh, I thought you would like it more, Cynthia. That is not your job.
Paige was wearing heels.
Oh no.
Paige was wearing lemon pepper fucking steppers. Like, first of all, still a rogue choice for a wine tour, Paige. I don't know why. But it's like,
no, never is that appropriate for a wine tour.
if you're going to invite people on something to walk 7 fucking miles, don't you think
say where you're walking?
Bring your Air Maxes.
Kids, yeah.
You know what I mean? What the fuck is going on? And I literally have to put on my sunglasses because I start crying.
Okay, so then she talks about that for a little bit. I want to skip to another timestamp. Again, I kind of told you the preset for the story, so I am going to skip around in this story.
Maybe only civilized people should have a drink.
Wait.
I feel like if I were Cynthia, I'd be like, ooh, watch this.
I think she had a touch of the
don't say tism.
And maybe the social cues could not recognize.
So that's something we're going to talk about that Tana's getting criticism for. She also labels that Cynthia has autism because she was talking so much about wine and stuff. And then she talks now about the fact that Cynthia gave them wine and was like, drink this how you normally would. And they all made a joke about downing it and stuff. And then Cynthia goes, okay, well, maybe people who are going to be respectful should only drink.
But I don't know at the same time because I don't know. Finally, she hands Paige a bottle of wine and has her pour it the specific way and whatever. And then says, and now drink it how you would drink it. And Paige makes a very silly joke. We're all just joking around here. What else are you going to do in a miserable moment? You know what I mean? And she puts it on her arm and makes a joke that she's going to slam it you know what I mean? And we all laugh. She doesn't do it, whatever. And Cynthia turns and says, maybe only civilized people should have a drink. You fucking
Whore.
cunt. You fucking fuck you. Okay, this is I didn't sign up for etiquette class. Take a joke. Get up from the fucking table. Go somewhere else. Also, who talks to people like that?
Cynthia.
Cynthia talks to people like that. And so I'm hot at this point. I have to get up and walk it off, and Damien comes over to calm me down. I'm crying. I'm I can't do this anymore. There's just something about me that it's when I want to altercate with someone and I am fighting that anxiety and frustration, and she's being such a bitch to me. And I love Paige.
All right, one more.
I'm pacing in the corner, chugging wine to myself, just trying to be on my phone. I'm excited because I know the car is going to be there soon.
I don't even want to know what happens next.
So they now were begging to go home. So Cynthia orders them a car to take them back to Paris. And she now tells the story of that.
The car? All right.
Yeah, that is what the main issue is. Someone's I think the only main issue here is that she's saying the name. That's what I'm saying. I said that I watched this last night. Obviously, there's comments in here that, I don't agree with. Like the autism comment and stuff like this. But for the most part, the back and forth banter of not wanting to be somewhere that you are, I thought was a conversation that I was just watching on a podcast and I didn't really see much issue with. The problem that I saw the issue with, which is what the Reddit sees, is the influence that Tana has and is now getting Cynthia so much backlash in her real life, and the workplace for just doing their job are being ran off Google, reviews and stuff right now, when you could have told this story, left out the autism comment, and not named Cynthia or the company, and it would have been a fine story. You know what I mean?
Arrives. They open the doors.
Does Cynthia get in?
And Cynthia get in!
Now, why?
This woman is now riding with us for Wait, but why?
Why? Don't you live here? Aren't you one of 300? Why? Why the fuck? We're not. Could you not? And we're paying for this car service. Could you not just be like, I think your job here is done. Why? Why do you want to ride in a car with me? I think she was having fun with you. I think that she was like, she probably was getting her fix.
I remember walking away and she asked them, she's like, ask them what I do for a living. And then Paige is telling her and she's like, in our town, we hate girls like her. Like she's going on like a whole fucking thing. Like, why would you want to ride? And like, everyone in Paris had been so kind to me. Like, I don't know if in their town of 300 it is just like anti-influence. I don't know. Like, whatever. Why would you want to ride in a car with me? You know what I mean?
All right. Anyway, so let's get to the Reddit because it's a little bit intense over there. So someone said, I don't want to learn about fertilization of grass in the middle of France. Oh, actually, there's one I want to get to before this, which I thought was really, really, really interesting. Someone said, here is the schedule that Tana went on the tour, and it's not a 3-hour train ride. So here, literally, because Tana has named Cynthia, oh, there she is. Because Tana has named Cynthia and the company, all of this is now being published online. So this is what Tana went on. 8 a.m., meet Sympathy. Meet Cynthia at the train station in Paris. That links up with Tana's story. 8:30 to 9:45, take a train from Paris to Dormans. During the journey, I will talk to you about the history of wine, geography of the region, and how the industry is organized. So exactly what Tana had booked. However, that is not a 3-hour train ride. That is an hour 15. It's an hour 15. And Tana lied about this woman and her company that for 3 hours she was basically harassing her, when in reality it was like an hour and 15 minutes, which, by the way, is not long at all, specifically in an Uber. 9:45 to 10:45, so this is when Tana said they were walking 4 hours. Walk along the river through the vineyards to the point where we will start our talk about the challenges in harvesting of the vineyards. 10:30 to 12:30, private tour of the vineyards, press center, tank rooms, and cellars, which is a small female-owned organic house. Christine is the first woman to be elected president of the Association of Independent Champagne Producers. So the timeline that Tana's saying does not link up at all, by the way. 12:30 to 2:30, 3-course picnic paired with 3 different champagnes. If the weather is nice, we'll eat outside on the terrace with a nice view of the vineyards. If the weather is not nice, we'll eat inside in their cozy tasting room in a former primary school that Christine attended as a child that she bought and converted. Like, that is so cool. I will talk to you about the different grape varieties and other winemaking choices that have affected the aromas and flavors of the champagne. And then 2:30 to 3, the driver will pick us up and take us to Reims. During the journey, I'll talk to you about the role of women in the history of making wine. So it seems to be like a very interesting thing. So at this stage, they left at 2. Like, Cynthia went with them to Paris at 2, sorry. Which, keep in mind, Cynthia was also working with other clients, but had to go with Tana. 3 to 5, private visit of a big, beautiful house with a chalk cellar filled with modern art. You will enjoy a visit as well as a tasting. You'll walk across the street to visit a beautifully restored art mansion, which will be then followed by another tasting. From 5 to 5:30, which will be a scenic walk to the cathedral. 5:30 to 6:30, you will visit the cathedral, talk about the history of the cathedral and the role of Joan of Arc. 7:15 to 8, you will take a train back to Paris. During the journey back, I will talk about whatever you want. So the duration is 12 hours. The cost for 2 people is around $7.50 a person. So at a bare minimum, Tana's group spent thousands on this for this specific tour. But Tana has done this story. And so here's my thing. When I watched this, I thought at parts this was funny. And I thought at parts that it was relatable of not being somewhere that you wanted to be. I wouldn't have acted like her, but, you know, just living through a story time. But when you realize what this thing that Tana booked and her friend booked for her and she agreed to go to was about, it changes my perception of the story, specifically when you start naming her and degrading her and her company, when especially we realize how much of like an independent woman-owned company it is. So that is crazy to me. So anyway, on the Reddit, they're saying that it was not a 3-hour train ride. So someone said, so basically Tana was triggered that Cynthia was doing her job because Tana decided to stay up until 6 in the morning the night before, being a drunk degenerate, before a classy wine tour. And that is something Tana said. She said that until like 6 a.m. she was drinking under the Eiffel Tower and then was woken up like after an hour of sleep. Keep in mind, Tana and her friends weren't the only ones on this tour. They were strangers who had also paid for the experience and that had researched it, and she was throwing a fit in front of everyone. And by the way, the walk that Tana said that was like hours was only half an hour. It was less than a mile, by the way. So she was lying about that. Anyway, someone said, I had a really hard time finishing the wine story. I'm furious at Tana. The fact that she decided to participate in the tour without even knowing what it is, probably just because that she would be assuming that she would be sitting down getting wasted like at a bar. And then deciding to attack and dox the poor woman. That's the people's issue here, is doxing the woman. Not just attacking her, because if you attacked her anonymously, it would be like, okay, we don't know who you're talking about. Who was just trying to do her job. It's not Cynthia's fault that Tana is... Okay. It's not Cynthia's fault that Tana decided to pull an all-nighter before the wine tour. It's not Cynthia's fault that Paige decided to wear heels in the French countryside. Read the description of the tour that you're signing up for. Have some respect to people who are just doing their job. Not everything in the world revolves around Tana. This is not LA. Stupid comments like their population of their city was 300 people. Yeah, it's probably one of the hundreds of small villages in the French countryside. How uneducated can you be to find this weird? Not everyone has the ability to live in the fucking Hollywood Hills. The way Brooke was gassing her up and agreeing with all of this nonsense, girl, 3 years ago you used to be a waitress. Have some respect for people who work in a similar field. The way she's complaining because this poor woman tried to do her job and give them a nice experience, this is what tour guides do. And they don't even make that much for you. So basically this is very, very, very obviously angry at Tana, clearly, and for good reason. And they don't make that much money. You're an ungrateful, spoiled child to be doxing her online and now sending your minions to attack her. I read here that she has a family and she's an older lady, so shame on you, Tana. You're scum. I've been a follower for years, and this is arguably the worst thing you've ever done. I'm seriously contemplating if I ever want to consume your content again. The way she feels empathy for the people who tried to engage like Paige but doesn't feel any empathy towards the poor woman who was just trying to do her job is a new low. I can't even finish the story because I'm so angry at her. Alright. Someone said, I can't imagine how this poor woman must be feeling. It's hideous that Tana is knowingly trying to destroy a middle-aged woman's entire livelihood that she has spent decades building up. Her horrible attitude is insensitive towards the hate that she is now instigating. It's astounding. She will never speak up and she'll never take accountability unless she can profit from it. Now people are saying that Cynthia could sue for defamation, which is also something to note. People are saying the amount of times that she was calling Cynthia like a whore and a see you next Tuesday. Someone said, more thoughts about the wine tour. Nobody asked for this, but here's my take. Number one, they obviously did no research about the tour, and there's no way this is the same one that Tana said her friends had previously went on. Number two, sorry, this is very easily Googleable. Number two, clearly something this long, expensive, and detailed is for people who are interested in wine. She even said everyone else on this tour was in their 40s. She should have never signed up for it because they're not mature enough for it. Number three, it's very disheartening to see her talk so much about traveling and not give a shit about culture. Number four, Tana, you literally own a wine brand. This could have been such a cool opportunity for you to learn even so much more about your brand, even if it was not fun, which is a great point. Number five, this woman's life work is wine and y'all booked a tour to her. I don't know why you thought parts of the tour could be skipped or were annoyed at her for talking about wine. There were other people there that were there to support her. Number six, it was excessive that Cynthia was messaging her friend afterwards and making comments about influencers. But honestly, I'd be frustrated if I had wasted my time and witnessed the behavior that Tana had did. Number seven, the autism comment, really? Do better. Yeah, Tana has her own wine brand. Someone said, it's important to note that Tana and her friends were not the only ones on this tour. As someone on here literally posted this sheet of what the tour is, Cynthia was doing her job. Tana and her friends signed up for this tour. Regardless of Tana's claims, the tour sheet says everything that they want to do. Tana was putting her headphones on, doing that was, you know, when she was supposed to be listening to Cynthia talking about things. Now, the cherry on top is that there were other people with them. Other people who weren't influencers or some privileged rich Americans. There were people who wanted to know what was happening on the tour, and they signed up for it, and they were trying to enjoy themselves, who wanted to walk and tour. Tana literally threw a fit and ruined these people's planned trips. Were they supposed to waste all the money and cater towards what Tana wanted? I find Cynthia's social medias and LinkedIn. The amount of sponsors, awards, and amazing reviews she has got is extraordinary. She's the businesswoman with a passion that Tana will never be. And Tana is trying to attack her livelihood. Now, I'm trying to find... There was someone had uploaded... Okay, here we go. So people are now posting reviews, like fake reviews. And they said, anyone planning on visiting here, please avoid having Cynthia as your guide at all costs. The way she speaks about people as well to their faces, it's disgusting. Nobody with this type of attitude should have any job requiring you to interact with people. Something needs to be done about her employment. So Tana's fans are now trying to get her fired because they know her name. They know her name and they know the company. So they're trying to get Cynthia fired by faking all of these reviews. And that's the issue that Tana has now on these people. I just think that, like, the story would have been, at parts, funny, because it's so outlandish, but not when you've given the name, full government name, full fucking company name, exact location of the company where now the worker is getting doxxed, the worker is getting harassed, the worker is at possibility of losing her entire livelihood she's worked so hard for, the company are being spammed with fake reviews, and it's all because you went on a tour that you shouldn't have booked. Because you wanted to get drunk at a wine tasting, which, by the way, there's wine tastings where you can just go with the aim of getting drunk. You know what I mean? Like, that does exist. It's just really upsetting, and I whenever I watched it back today, I was like, holy shit, I didn't see it from this perspective, and I think it was because I didn't think that people were deranged enough to fill Google reviews trying to get Cynthia's entire livelihood taken off her, but that changes everything, and then I was like, oh shit, her saying Cynthia's name is a problem, her saying the name of the company is a problem, no matter how at parts the back and forth of the conversation can be deemed funny, it's not funny when you're now ruining this other woman's life. So that's my opinion on that. The subreddit are pissed at her. Like, pissed at her. For good reason. So, boo for Tana, yay for fucking Cynthia. Even if Cynthia wasn't asked to Tana, Tana booked that tour. You can tell the story exactly without naming Cynthia or the name of the company. It's irrelevant other than just wanting to get her doxxed and harassed. I hope the fake reviews are being taken down. Because Cynthia could sue because of that. Anyway, there is that.